Good afternoon, everyone. I am Garvita Srivastava, Executive Committee member of BCICAI. After this scrumptious lunch, now it's time to feed your souls. 15 years back, traveling in airplane was a dream for an average middle-class Indian. Our speakers for this session, who had humble beginnings, too dreamed the same. But the difference was that they succeeded in disrupting a whole industry. They made air travel accessible to everyone by bringing the air travel cost cheaper than first-class rail tickets. The disruption of an industry benchmark resulted in formation of a company with first low-cost airline carrier in India. It can be really daunting to go after an industry that's been doing things one way for so many years. Our speakers decided to go against the tide and brought the Indian middle-class dream to reality. The host for this session can be no one better than someone who closely worked with Captain G.R. Gopinath, a partner in disrupting the challenges he faced to convert the dream of 1 million Indians into reality. He is the only one who can bring us some behind-the-scenes glimpses and being a catalyst for growth. Can we have the AV, please, for the host of this session?
Mr. John Kuruvilla is the co-founder and CRO of Kalpnik Technologies Private Limited. He has spent close to 14 years in some of the renowned advertising agencies in India. He hung up his boots in advertising after winning a Lion at Cannes International Festival of Creativity. As the Chief Revenue Officer at Air Deccan, India's pioneer in the low-cost airline business, he led a team that revolutionized almost every aspect in the aviation space. He is also a part of Geo team, helping set up Geo virtual classrooms in rural India. Mr. John Kuruvilla.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John Kuruvilla.
After such a fabulous lunch, the only thing we need to disrupt is sleep. And that's the challenge between Captain Gopi and me. And I think it'll be easier than disrupting a well-entrenched business. But before I get on the stage, the man responsible for giving wings to the dreams of 1 billion Indians, I'd like to play a film. Can we have the film, please?
हरिराम जी चिट्ठी
खोल के पढ़ो तो भैया।
दिल्ली से है बेटे की। अरे ये तो प्लेन का टिकट है। हाँ? अरे सुनो रे, प्लेन का टिकट भेजा है हरिराम के बेटे ने।
ये हवाई जहाज में 2 तरह के बैगेज होते हैं, एक चेक्ड इन, एक हैंड बैगेज। इसको तुम हैंड बैगेज की तरह ले जा सकते हो।
You know, to disrupt an industry, Captain used to tell us, disrupt every aspect of your business. And this film, at that time in 2005, was one of the most disruptive advertising films in Asia. For 3 reasons. It was the longest film in Asia, 2.5 minutes. No sane man, and we were completely insane as a team, no sane man would produce such a long film because the cost of running the film on television was very expensive. A. B. The actors in the film, the producer in the film, the producer was a small-time producer who'd never made it big, but he had big dreams. We told him, look, we have limited money, but what we have enough of is free seats. So we actually paid the main protagonist, a very good Malayali actor, remuneration in seats for a lifetime. We paid the producer of the film seats for a lifetime. And then what we did, we looked at collaboration. We went to ZTV and NDTV and said, listen, there is a lot of ad space that you have which is going waste. It's a perishable commodity. Once the ad space is gone, there's no money earned. I have seats which, if empty, is a perishable commodity. Why don't we marry the two? And they said, what do you mean? So I said, look, why don't you give me 1 crore worth of advertising space and I will give you 1 crore worth of seats. So suddenly, we had advertising space on Z and on NDTV, and that's how the film actually took wings. Then what happened? We started winning awards all over India. And the one problem that Deccan had, actually 2, we never had money. The second problem as a result of that was Captain Gopi gave me 50 lakhs as advertising budget, and 50 lakhs means 1 ad in Times of India front page. And nobody will remember you. But because of the awards we won, we got enough fame in the country and people talked about us. And that's one of the ways that awareness was built for Air Deccan. Without much ado, let me call an ordinary man with an extraordinary dream, Captain Gopinath, who I had the privilege of working with, and those 3 years of my life were one of the most fascinating 3 years of my life. So Captain, may I have you on board to actually say a few words?
Captain G.R. Gopinath is the founder of Air Deccan, India's first low-cost airline set up in 2003. Air Deccan went on to revolutionize Indian aviation and offered affordable airfare to Indian people, enabling millions of first-time flyers. He was an officer in the Indian Army and served in the Bangladesh Liberation War. In 2005, he received the prestigious Rajotsava Award by the government of Karnataka. In 2006, he was awarded the Legion of Honor, the highest civilian award conferred by the French government. Captain G.R. Gopinath.
Again, I would like to thank the ICAI for having me over here, and I gave a lot of trouble to Mahesh and his colleague by not confirming, but I was initially not ready to come for other reasons and other commitments, but I'm very happy I came, and I'm really touched by a gesture, the extraordinary, I can feel the vibrations of this community here, which is doing great work. Second, I must also begin with a salutation to an iconic entrepreneur, founder, one of the founders, Chris Gopalkrishnan from my city. We meet occasionally. Salute you first because the whole country looks up to you, and of course Narayan Murthy and the other colleagues. I'll generally talk on the aspect of entrepreneurship, largely from the point of view of people who have dreams, from maybe disadvantaged situations. When I say disadvantaged, you don't have money, you don't have the kind of qualifications that are needed to break into businesses which are dominant, either technology businesses or businesses which are very capital intensive. Rather than speaking very specifically about what Deccan did, I'll not get too much into that. I'll put my talk in context of some of these impulses that drove me to do what I did along with my colleagues. And of course, you can never achieve any of these things unless you have a team of great believers whom you can get on board to buy into your dream. And so thanks to people like John and my other colleagues who are not here. Actually, your job is basically to keep them all, fully, not just bought into your dream, to become multipliers of those dreams. Each of them must live your dream and also live their dream through you. It was Goethe, the German poet, who said, "Dare to dream and begin it." Dare to dream and begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power to it. So I think the first thing is that you should be able to dream, and dream the most audacious dreams. And as Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And it looks too fantastical a statement, but it's really true. If you look at any of these people, whether it could be Walt Disney or Steve Jobs or Narayan Murthy in our own case, people had dreams which are crazy. So you had to become, in a very Vedantic way, one with the dream. You can't have any duality. You have to become the dream, and you have to be possessed by that idea, and possessed to the point of madness, to the exclusion of everything else. I think that's what is the first, necessary precondition for an entrepreneur. It was said that when the great violinist Leonard Cohen was asked, by a young violinist, I'm debating, should I become a full-time violinist? And he said, if you are a violinist, you start playing, you don't debate too much. So there's always this debate between analysis and, paralysis by analysis, as I think people in management say, and instinct, death by sudden instinct. But ultimately, there's a point when your analysis cannot take you beyond a point. There's a point where analysis stops. Typically, entrepreneurs who are not probably having sometimes the baggage of the education that they have analyze too much. But many entrepreneurs, an idea, they catch an idea from the deep recesses of that soul. So entrepreneurship is a secret impulse, and it is an obedience of that impulse that you get. And so dreaming is not enough. Your dream has to be combined with venture. It has to be the dreaming and the doing. It has to happen almost sometimes simultaneously. When I was in the village school, it's something like the school that you saw there, and I'll come back to that film and as to how that film triggered. But I went to a similar school like that. I went barefoot to a school. My father was a teacher in the local school, and one day the school headmaster said, there's a military exam. Anybody wants to go for that military exam? I was in my 7th standard, sitting on the floor, And I just raised my hand, and not knowing what a military school was, except that I heard from my father. Even today in villages in Karnataka, you find military hotel, which means. So I asked him, what is that, military? He said it is where non-vegetarian food is served for the people who eat non-vegetarian. Instead of saying non-vegetarian restaurant, even today in villages, you can find military hotel. So I just, raised my hand. And I joined the army, and through a military school. There is a very famous Kannada, I think that I want to do Kannada to make you a little homesick, I'll say this. There's a very famous poem by one Kannada poet called Puti Narasimhachar. It says, Gudiyache, Gidadache, Gadiyache, Hogona Banniro Hosanadige. Gudiyache, Gadiyache, Gidadache, Hogona Banniro Hosanadige. Beyond the temple, beyond the woods, beyond the borders, let's go to new lands yonder. So to discover new lands, you have to leave a safe place. It was, it is said that if you want to discover new lands, you have to be away from the shore for a long time. I mean, ships are safe in the harbor, but they're not meant for that. So I think there is a story which many of you may know, that Columbus, the great sailor, when he was standing in the edge of Spain, looking into the ocean, it was before the era of Copernicus, when it was not known that the earth was round. He looked at the ocean. He was a great sailor, and he was dreaming, what is beyond this? And since the theory was that earth is flat, he said that, look, if the earth is flat, then if there's land on this side where I am standing, there must be land on the other side. So he went and pitched this idea to his own kings in Italy, and it was discarded. He said, look, can you fund me? I want to take a ship and a sailing ship and discover these new lands in search of gold and in search of precious metals. Because in those days, people are looking for gold. And the Italian kings said no. So he went to the Spanish kings. And the Spanish kings funded him. And that's how, instead of discovering India, which you heard, he discovered the USA. I think that was the first, probably the venture capital, if you want to call it that. A dreamer who dreamt very illogically that because Earth was round, but even then thinking it's flat, he pitched this crazy idea that there must be land on the other side. So you need to have this ability to listen to your heart. You see, all of us have this inner impulse, inner gleam that shines to each of us. We have to learn to detect what is it that inner thing is telling you. And we have to have a courage and an overarching fidelity, overarching, fealty, obedience to that impulse. Because we normally do not listen to our inner thoughts. And so you need to have that courage to listen to your this one, which is called, intuition. I mean, the rest is all tuition, which is important. But your ability to listen to your intuition is key. And I think for an entrepreneur, that self-trust, that is the secret of success. That's the first secret of success. You have to believe in yourself, believe in your dream. Because what is genius? Genius is often, it is your thoughts which you rejected, which you see in a majesty when another genius pronounces it. All along you think, oh my God, I was thinking of it myself. This idea, I thought of it all the time. And we often don't listen to that. So we need to have an ability and the courage to listen to our inner voice. So when I was when I left the army and I came back looking to do something, and I was not sure at that time what I wanted to do, because India was not the kind of country that it was today. It is today. I came back and I went into farming, and there was about 20 acres of land which my family got awarded, because the lands that my father had and his father's brothers had in a small village called Gorur in Hassan district on the bank of the Hemavati river. So I came back one fine day after serving about 8 years or 10 years in the army. I was in the Bangladesh war, I was in Assam, Bhutan, Kashmir and various places. And one fine day I said, look, I must do something on my own. And I had trekked all over India, I had gone on motorcycles all over India, I had trekked all over the US. I came back and I said, I must do something on my own. I did not know what I wanted to do at that time, but I surely knew that I did not want to be in a government job. So then I thought, okay, maybe the best thing is to get into farming and reflect, what I would like to get my life organized. So there was this inextinguishable optimism within me. I think that is key. A blind optimism that if you believe in yourself, if you work hard, if you venture out, and if you take risks, you're going to come out at the end of it. You're like the farmer. You do not have these doubts that the sun will not rise tomorrow. You do not have these doubts, regardless of the calamities, that if you sow the seed, that it will not sprout. That if you put your shoulder to the plow, that it will yield you results. So that optimism is required. In spite of the sin, why I'm saying that is that today, when you see in our own country, as well as other parts of the world, there's so much of depression. Sometimes because of corruption, sometimes because of the kind of politics that we have. So it's very easy to become depressed, and it's very easy to become cynical. For the best of us, we say, what have we come to? So I think cynicism is slow suicide. So an entrepreneur, I'm not talking too much on the disruption, I'll come to that. But so if you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to have that generosity of spirit. You have to have that inextinguishable optimism, a perennial enthusiasm that you can do good. You can, in spite of all the darkness, there are people who will help you. There are people who will believe in you. There are people who will help you along the way. That optimism is needed if you want to set up anything. That's the reason I said pessimism, skepticism is a self-defeating mechanism that puts out the best of spirits. So I came home and that built a dam. And my father said all the lands are submerged. And so I was like, suddenly, as a rock had fallen on me, because I had resigned my job. And whatever little lands my father had, it was not much. So I thought I'll take to farming. I don't know if any of you know what a harikatha is. It's very common in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, in Andhra and Karnataka. A harikatha Vidwan, this harikatha is not there so much in North India as a tradition. In South, we have this harikatha tradition. We have Balakrishna Shastrigal in Tamil Nadu, we had Sant Keshav Das in this one. The harikatha Vidwan, when he starts, he can go on that harikatha, reciting and telling stories, not only till next morning, he can speak for a week. So, I remember when I contested an election on the BJP ticket, just to, in the interest of full disclosure. I was the president of BJP of Hassan. I'm just jumping the story like the Harikatha Vidyan because where my mind takes me. I was president of the BJP of Hassan when Vajpayee was then the leader of the BJP party. There was one Anant Kumar who passed away recently who was the secretary. And Yediyurappa was the present chief minister who was into a lot of controversies. Even as we speak, was the because controversies because there's a mirror reflection of what happened in Karnataka and Maharashtra. So when Yediyurappa was the president of the party and I was the president in Hassan, there was a huge Kaveri riots in Karnataka, massive Kaveri riots. And since I was the president in that Kaveri belt, because Kaveri flew through, started in Coorg, but it flew through Hassan and through my village where the major Hemavati river, where the dam was already built. There were riots everywhere, buses were stopped and burnt and things like that. So they came on a Kaveri speech to say why water should not be given to Tamil Nadu. So I was supposed to organize all these political meetings from village to village to village. You know how a politician, when he comes, you go from one village to another village, and the village has to be prepped up before you reach there. So the secretary, Anant Kumar, told me, he said, look, Yediyurappa is going to come late. So I was not very good in speaking in Kannada initially. He said, Captain, you know, this crowd will go away if you, finish your speech. So you please continue to speak, and we will also bring one film actor. So let that film actor be there. If he speaks first, then everybody will go away. And if I finish the speech, people will go away because Yediyurappa has to come. He was always perennially late, like most politicians. So that reminded me. So I would speak and keep talking, all the yawns. And then finally, when there's 10 minutes for Yediyurappa to come, the actor was then told, you please don't speak because Yediyurappa has come. So I'm going to indulge you for some more time. Anyway, so now I went to these. I asked my father, where are these lands? It also has a story on entrepreneurship, which I'm going to tell you. Where are these lands that you say is being submerged? Because when the government builds dams, what happens? The farmers become overnight. Especially the farmers. 60 villages were submerged in this river, where the dam was built, including our lands. When 60 villages are submerged, those 60 villages had to be rehabilitated. Forest lands are submerged, so you lose forest lands. Then these 60 villages had to be rehabilitated. So again, forest lands are given, or grazing lands, ancient heritage grazing lands are given for these villages to be resettled. Then for the villagers who are resettled, you again have to give them land for farming. They are all virgin lands. And that's how dams are very destructive. Apart from the ecological destruction, it causes huge disruption of lives and society. Because a village, lives in a symbiotic ecosystem. If there's a carpenter there, a blacksmith there, he has a kind of a brand. His father was a carpenter, grandfather was a carpenter, great-grandfather was a carpenter, and he had a clientele. To use the word brand loosely, he had a clientele which was there with him. And now when you uproot him and take him away from that village, and then put him 100 kilometers away in a godforsaken place, then, he loses his living. And most of the money is taken away by the local lawyers and middlemen, and the compensation is not reaching the farmer. It comes in bits and pieces. Most of them become refugees overnight, exiles in their own land. And this is what I was witnessing. Wherever I went in the village, to the temple, to the bus stand, the talk was, where are you going to go and settle down? So I was told that we had 7 acres of land, and that's how I went seeking these lands. And I went and saw these barren lands of about 30 acres, and decided, and I pitched a tent there and started my farming. And to cut the story short, after a few years of living in the farm in a tent, and then I built a small mud house, I moved to Bangalore. Once my coconut plantation started yielding, I moved to Bangalore. And when I came to Bangalore, I was playing squash and tennis in the army club. And I met an army colleague of mine who was a buddy of me in the army, who was a helicopter pilot. And I asked him, what was he doing? He had just taken retirement after 20 years, a chap called Captain Samuel from Kerala. We served together in the war. We were in the same bunker. Outstanding guy, outstanding pilot, gallantry award winner, great leader. He was still about 40, 44, 43. He'd retired from the army. And every time I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He said, look, I'm looking for a job. I said, why? I mean, you're a helicopter pilot. You should be getting a job. And though I was in the aviation division, I was not flying. And because I was in the gunnery department. So he said that there are no helicopters in the entire South India. There was one helicopter with Vijay Mallya. I mean, this is true, which is a very old, ancient helicopter, and he already had a pilot. And for about a year, when I used to meet him in the club, he'd say, I'm not getting a job. And one day he said, I got a job. So I was really happy for him, because he had 3 kids who were all, in their, just in the early teens. And he said, I got a job. And I said, what is the job that you got? He said, I got a job as a security officer in a company. And I was shocked, because I said, this was an outstanding pilot, and got a job as a security officer in one of the companies of that time. This was in the early days of reforms. I think Infosys had just started on the rise. Very, very early days of the new entrepreneurial India that we are talking about. So this was playing in my mind, and this hit me, this idea that we had hundreds of pilots, hundreds of engineers from Army, Air Force and Navy. All of them have flown extensively in Kashmir and in the battlefront, now without a job, ending up as security officers and administrative officers. So at that time I went to China, because I had won an award, a Rolex award, which was not there in my biodata, so I might as well tell. I won a Rolex award for agriculture, Rolex award for enterprise in organic farming, organic silk farming. So I went with a delegation of farmers to China. And I was in China, and I was shocked. I was in a Taluk headquarters, deep into China, and I found that wherever I went, I found in the hotel a brochure there how China was welcoming investments. And then a thought came to me that if China, which had embraced capitalism without abandoning communism, the Russian state had collapsed, and why were we in this kind of a terrible state in India, where we have so much of human resources? And in this context, I was looking at the Army pilots, Air Force pilots, and the naval pilots who were without jobs, and suddenly an idea crossed me that India was on the way to reforms, and we had hundreds of pilots without jobs, and there was not a single helicopter company in South India. There were about 15 or 16 helicopters in the whole country, and out of which I think actually what was flying was about only 7 or 8. They were largely with the old world businesses like the Thapars, the Birlas, and when they had to fly, they had to plan a month in advance. And the idea came to me that, in the army, we fly and land anywhere. And I said, why can't we start a helicopter company? And I had no money. The reason why I'm telling this is I never asked even once, how much does a helicopter cost? But I knew deep in my mind that if India was on the way to reforms, and this kind of a growth, already the signs were there, like I said, if companies like Infosys, and if you had a kind of a market that is going to open up inevitably, because I knew that in the army we did a lot of infrastructure work, I said, there's no way this cannot not succeed. And we had helicopters largely with the 5-6 industrialists, and then when they were not using it, it was for political patronage. There were no helicopters for customers. There was no customer focus because there was no customer dependency. Even if Birla had to fly, Mahindra had to fly, Bajaj had to fly, he would sell scooters to fly in a helicopter. He didn't need customers. So that's when the idea came to my mind that India can have a helicopter company. And in Kannada, again, there's a proverb. It says, "Angai na hunnige kannadi beke." If you have an abscess on your palm, do you need a mirror? The mirror is the consultant. You go to McKinsey. I know a lot of you do that work, but McKinsey, you go to McKinsey to get a project report. So if you go to somebody and say, I want an aviation project report, I don't think we could even afford that. But deep within me, and that's what I talked to you about, that you need to have that ability to listen to what is prompting you, and you need to have that optimism to make that flight, in a metaphorical and a literal sense, and take that jump with a prayer and the wing. So, how many more minutes? Another 10 minutes? Okay, another 5 minutes? Okay. I'll just end this one. So, my first advertisement in the charter business was, if it's in the map, I took our helicopter to the Kaveri fishing camp, put that there in the helicopter, and John was the person who was in the advertisement agency then, doing advertising for us. And I said, John, create some ads for us. And one of the first ads that John made for us was, we took this chopper, put it on an island in the Kaveri fishing camp, just half an hour from Bangalore. And the ad said, if it's in the map, we'll get you there. And when that ad came, I started getting hundreds of calls. And the calls were, of course, calls for the helicopters were few and far between. Because in those days, typically companies like Infosys, being very frugal, led by a frugal leader, never hired helicopters. Even now they don't. But what the ad did, apart from triggering the whole lot of things, you can read my book, but what the ad did was that I started getting calls saying that, can you take us to Hubli? Can you take us to Vijayawada? Can you take us to, any of these places? And I said, what are you doing? And he would say, I'm a clerk in a bank, or I'm a manager in a bank. And then I said, helicopters don't go there. They thought there's an airline. And when I was flying in a helicopter, that's how I'll finish my story. When I was flying in a helicopter back from one of the election campaigns, because the helicopter was coming back empty, I was flying between Goa and Bangalore. And as I came over the mountains, I was finding, when I came over the villages, I was finding something, glittering. And I told the pilot, let's fly down a bit and see what it is. And I found that in every village in the center, there was one large dish antenna. That was the first signs for me, sitting in the helicopter, literally a helicopter view, that the country had changed from a country of 1 billion hungry people to be fed and subsidized to a country of 1 billion consumers. And that's when this idea came to me that they were buying everything. Even when you go to the Taluk headquarters, they would have a small refrigerator there, early signs. There'd be one car in that village. Maybe he was also probably a government inspector in the revenue department who had bought a second-hand car. So it informed me, sitting there, that there's a new India that was emerging. I could feel it. I could sense it. I could feel the pulse. And that's how I said they were buying everything, but they're not buying a ticket. They're not even envious of it. And then I announced that let's start an airline. And an airline, an airline born out of the mud of India, with the Indian genius. And the reason why I'm saying it is that we started the airline without printing a ticket, when e-ticketing and internet ticketing didn't exist in India. The entire Travel Agents Association came and said, we'll boycott you because you are taking away our business. I said, not on my dead body. We'll never print a ticket. I said, I want to eliminate all middlemen completely. And what many people do not realize, the low-cost airline succeeded because of the technology. So it's not necessarily that inventions had to be big. Of course it is there, somebody invents a radio, somebody invents a steam engine. They are big inventions. But the disruptions happen the way you figure out the existing available technologies, and then you position it in a manner where it disrupts the existing business arrangement, like the American Express credit card which first came. So the internet was one of the key disruptors, because it straight away brought down the cost of a ticket, you will not believe, by 30%, by just doing nothing else except selling our tickets and putting the inventory, apart from increasing your cash flow and other things. So I just want to leave the last sentence to say that you need to have, for an entrepreneur, these 3-4 qualities. You need to have the ability to listen to your guts and your intuition. You need to have optimism, and more than talent, you need to have perseverance, indomitable will. Your will comes from your ability to believe in your dream and keep going and keep going. And Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Thank you.
I need a mic. Thank you, Captain. May I request you to? So Mahesh and team told me it's very important for the gathering here to get insights from Captain. So I'm going to actually put him through hell to get some nuggets out. But while we are setting up a mic for him, I met Captain in 1998, audacious dream. Deccan Charters started taking off. And I had done a startup, I'd exited, and then Gopi called me and said, look, why don't you come and join me? So I said, sure. I asked him only 2 questions. I said, how much money do you have? He said, don't ask me that question. So I said, I need to know. He said, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. I said, Captain, I need to know how much money, because I'd just done a startup. And he gave me the amount. And then I asked him a second question, how much does an aircraft cost? So the money that Captain had raised was 1 crore in equity and 4 crore in debt. And 1 aircraft and ATR costed 40 crores. And I asked him, oh, that's interesting. What's your dream? He said, I want every Indian to fly. And I want to be the largest airline in India in the next 3 years. So with that, let me take you through the journey that Captain had by asking him. We have. No, sit. So, Captain, the scenario in 2003.
You're not Arnab Goswami.
I'm not. But I've been.
Sorry.
In 2003, 97% of all tickets were sold through travel agents. There were Jet Airways, Sahara, India Airlines, behemoths, and there was a government who was not too happy with you coming on. Didn't it frighten you?
Yeah, of course it frightens you, because anybody who tells you you're not scared is not telling the truth. Like if you're in the war, you are scared, like John Wayne once said very famously that courage is not having fear. Courage is that you have fear, but you saddle up anyway. I mean, you keep going, So, as I said, one of the things that help you in these times of, when you feel that there's a mountain that you cannot climb, or there's a tsunami that is coming in front of you. The thing that you see, because I don't read too much of management books, but when I look at even, for example, the story of Infosys or any of the other great entrepreneurs, I was not thinking of those things then, but sometimes when I admire them, you're so obsessed with your dream, your destination. All that you see is the goal. You don't see the obstacles.
It's the eye of the fish.
Yeah.
It's the eye of the fish.
Yeah. You are only looking at the light. It's not to say you're not going to deal with the enemy. You're not going to deal. For example, I can take the names. Naresh Goyal, because I said it publicly before it's come in the press, was sending MPs after MPs to question in the parliament, how can you allow a low-cost airline and disrupt the economy of this country, because it will completely destroy the present aviation infrastructure, which will destroy the economy. And we all know that these are games which all established players play. I mean, that is, we normally blame politicians. Actually, we have to blame the businessman more than that, because when a businessman becomes successful, he ensures that the new entrants, you look at all the great industrialists today, from famous family houses, if the same rules were applied, they would never have been in business. So every one of these great industrialists today, their grandfathers started with nothing, but once they got power, they ensured that competition does not come in. So I mean, that's what established businesses do, and it is your job not to be deterred. And believe me, like Napoleon said, if you brave death, you drive him into the enemy's ranks. So I once made a statement. I said Naresh Goyal is asking for protection from the government. He should go to a pharmacy shop to buy his protection. So that came in the headlines, in the sense that I know I was a little crazy, but I said that.
And every time he used to say things like this, he used to put us into trouble. We used to get the travel agents into a place and we said, look, Captain is now very clear that you guys can book your tickets, and while we will not make commission, we will not pay you commission, you take money, and next morning the newspaper was, the travel agent's business is dead. So question to you is, we never had resources. We never had the money, we never had the marketing muscle. We had 4 to 8 years flying around. What was the fuel that you believe sparked the revolution that made Air Deccan the largest airline in India?
See, I think there are. See, when you have Air Deccan was not an NGO, right? Like Infosys is not an NGO, but there's something about the ethos of Infosys or the Tatas, where somehow the country and the public believe that it is nation building, right? It's not by any stretch of imagination. They're not trying to pose it as an NGO, but the ethos of that company is such that it is beyond business. So Air Deccan, of course, it was not had investors. The investors expected returns, so it was not an NGO. But I was also, the reason I used the word obsessed was I was literally obsessed because I knew that if you can convert these billion people into consumers, it will completely change the game. And when you go and make a statement, I want everyone to fly. No, it's a vision, but a vision has to be something which is realized every day, but can never be realized in your lifetime. That's why it was said that vision is the art of seeing the invisible, as Jonathan Swift said. Vision is seeing, but it is the art of seeing the invisible. What does it mean? It's a contradiction. Vision is the ability to see the future, ability to see something which others are not seeing, or you are seeing it. And so you have to put that vision to the people. You have to put that vision even to the government. So because when I went to the civil aviation minister, he called me. I said, look, I'm getting complaints from every MP. I mean, how is it possible that you're going to make a low-cost airline? Because even my clerks, everyone want to they bring your file faster than their file. And I said, can you get everybody together? Because he said, I'll get everybody. Can you talk to the DGCA? Because the DGCA is reluctant to give you the clearance, saying that how are you going to do the maintenance of the aircrafts and things like that. One is because, see, as an entrepreneur, it's not only your job to create a product, but you also have to be able to manage the environment and the government of making them buy into your dream. So they had no clue as to how, if you can give airfare at 1/3 the cost, how is it possible to maintain an aircraft? So he called everybody together, and I went and addressed them. And,
Yep, okay. What was, a lot of people, when they realized that I'm going to be in conversation with you, how did Air Deccan manage to give 500 rupee ticket and 1 rupee ticket?
Okay, there are one or two real life stories, which is, again, the reason I'm quoting Infosys is that, because I admire them, but more than that, not because he's here, these are real stories. See, what happened is that, if you remember when you were there was a talk about having some advertising mascot. And the thing in those days was either you become a mascot for the airline like Malia, or you get a brand ambassador like Amitabh Bachchan or somebody. And I said, no way, I'm not going to get Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan because it goes against the ethos of the airline. Second, he's going to ask so much of money, it will increase the cost. If he's going to increase the cost, though I know advertisement brings down the cost in a different way because it gives you more revenue, but it will directly impact my cost so much, it will increase my fare, which is against the inherent business model. So I said, I think, I saw a cartoon of A.K. Lakshman, where Air Deccan had already made some names, and the A.K. Lakshman cartoon was, there was a guy in the aircraft who was a villager in his dhoti with one leg on the seat, one danda, and his bistar on the
Luggage bin.
luggage. And there was one rail chombu, in the early days, people who used to travel by train, they used to carry, you see in your father's time, they used to carry a brass. He was so observant, he had a rail chombu on the thing. And he was sitting very expansively in a flight. And then next to him was a common man sitting, looking very bemused. And next to him in the window was the guy in a suit. And he is sitting like this with contempt on his face, and he said, if these airlines bring down the fares any further, I will travel by train. So that triggered an idea in me, and I said, I should have R.K. Lakshman's Common Man as my mascot. So I told John, I said, John, this is what I want to do. He said, no, he said, I still remember his words. He said, Captain, don't even try it. He's a cantankerous old man. He's very short-tempered. I know a case where we tried,
in Maruti,
and because somebody from the PMO's office called R.K. Lakshman and saying that we're calling from the PMO's office for the Maruti car, and he banged the phone down. So the normal thing that happens in such a case is that because he has come and said R.K. Lakshman did also said no to PMO, Prime Minister's office, why will he say yes to me? But in the normal way, I said I didn't say no to him. I didn't say yes to him. I called R.K. Lakshman. I got his number from somebody. I called R.K. Lakshman, and his wife picked up, and I spoke to him, and then spoke to her, and she put him on line, and I said. Then I simply said, initially, Namaskara, I said. And, he said, "You Kannada matadtira," he said. I said, yes. He said, Yavuru. I said, I am from Hassan. He said, my father was a headmaster in Hassan. He was an Iyer, he's R.K. Narayan's brother. And I remember my father telling me that who his headmasters were. And it so happened my father was a student for his father as a headmaster. So then, he was very happy. He said, look, this is the idea I have. I want to come and talk to you. He already knew what air Deccan was. He had flown in it once or twice. Because we were going to a lot of towns which others were not going. So there was no option for the richest man other than going by this one. So I went and met him. He made a plane for me with the R.K. Lakshman's that Common Man on it and some creatives. The very famous R.K. Lakshman, there is a thing which has got a... so you put an air Deccan there, we put it on the aircraft. So I went and showed it to him. So he touched it and looked at it, and he was so emotional. I said, look, this embodies everything that you have said in your cartoon, in your the general... So I said, can I use it as my brand and my logo? And he said, totally. He said, why not? So that's how I enlisted people to buy into the dream, and often it was. I think the idea was, because I believed in the idea. See, some of these things you can't simulate. You can't simulate your passion if you don't have it.
One more thing, R.K. Lakshman was again paid in tickets because we didn't have the money. So he was given tickets for a lifetime. We can go on and on, Captain.
No, in fact, I asked him, what should I give? He said, I leave it to you. So I don't want to risk. I gave him a token amount. But then, every year he came in an air Deccan flight. Then I drove him to my farm, and every year he would come with his wife, and I would take them to my farm. He would spend 4 or 5 days there. I would spend a couple of days with him, and he had an extraordinary sense of humor. So I asked him, does your son draw? And he said, yes, he draws money from the bank. But right after this, I got a legal notice from Times of India saying that this is our proprietary thing. How are you using that? So I called R.K. Lakshman and I said, this is what legal notice I have got. I hope you have all the clearances. He said, the cartoons are their trademark or their copyright, but the common man is mine. So, so I said, what will he do? He said, I'll tell it now off the record. He said, I'll tell you in Kannada, I'll translate in English. I'll say, Hoga sola magna, he said. Meaning, fuck off, he said. So the reason I said is that, of course you are scared, of course you are deterred, because I had already got all the aircraft painted. Now we get a legal notice, not from some small local newspaper, but from Times of India. You can't take it lightly. So I told Times of India, I said, look, what is done is done. He's your man. He's as much your icon and lifeline, because so you deal with him. I don't think he has violated anything. So you have to deal with him and not me, I said.
So we can go on and on. You can spend weeks with Captain and never get bored. And each of his stories are inspirational. So what we'll do now, we'll open up the floor. Mahesh, we have another 5 minutes? We'll open up the floor for a few questions. And what I have is 3 books here, autographed by Captain Gopi. We'll give it to some of the best questions here. So questions. Why did you sell? That was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I always get asked this question.
This book is for you.
In 2000, 2 years after I launched in 2004, the airline, 2003, within 1 month after launching, I got private equity. Within 6 months after the aircraft had not launched, but because of that idea, somebody gave some $5 million. It was an NRI. There's nothing except my dream. He put 5. But within 6 months, when I already had the aircraft flying, and I got a call from Singapore Airlines. They came and did a due diligence, and they said they're ready to invest. I got a call from Richard Branson. I went and met him. He came and did a due diligence. He said he'll invest. And the government, as you say, man proposes and our politicians dispose. Vajpayee was the last days of his prime ministership. He had announced it. Jaswant Singh had announced that they'll allow foreign direct investment of airlines up to 49%. In anticipation of that, the Singapore Airlines CEO, he sent a secret mission because they were listed, and I went to Singapore and he came here. Then I flew him to my plantation in Kabini. We had a thing and everything was done. We shook hands. But the government called elections 2 months earlier. So in the India Shining, you know that advertisement, and the government fell. So the last, lot of things they cleared. The last one was foreign airline investment. Foreign direct investment was allowed, but not foreign airline investment. The topic came up, and Pramod Mahajan, the late Pramod Mahajan, his son was in Jet Airways. He had interest in Jet Airways, and he raised an objection, and he was a very powerful man. And Vajpayee didn't want to overrule because it was all done. He said, anyway, he said, after elections we'll do it. After elections, Vajpayee did not come back to power. Anyway, what I'm saying is that then I got $50 million from some private equity, and
went IPO.
Within third year, from 5 million, I got 50 million. I mean, that is the power of whatever you can call it, a dream. And we deployed 1 aircraft a month, every month for 48 months. Every month, 1 aircraft. And the dream was predicated on 2 things. One is the lowest fare. The other one was, even if you have the lowest fare, but if it is only Bombay, Delhi, then you are not realizing the vision. Not for the sake of the vision. The vision was
to create a robust model which can never be realized, which meant that we want everyone to fly. So 90% of India was not geographically connected. Even today, if you ask how many people are flying, though Suresh Prabhu said, growth and all that, only 4% of India is traveling by air today. That is a strange tragedy or anachronism. Only 4% of India is flying, accessing air travel. So we became the largest airline in 4 years. We overtook Indian Airlines in 3 years. At that height, because of the fact that the other airlines were bringing down fares, predatory pricing initially, bringing down the fare below my cost, below their cost, which is always predatory pricing. My fare is lower, but his fare is lower than his cost. That law didn't exist. So I thought the only way was to expand in such a manner that he'll bleed and back off. And that's what he did. I did not contract too much debt. I had only 150 crores debt when we had 25% market share when we overtook Jet Airways. I had 150 crores debt, and most of it was in deposits for acquiring new Airbuses. So I ordered 60 new Airbuses and 60 ATRs, and we had taken delivery of 48 of them at the time of me selling to Malia. And the reason why that was, the reason I gave this preamble was that when we had such a kind of growth, I didn't have a problem of cash flow. We were still not in profit. We were in profit only the first year. When this expansion happened, the expansion was so much, but it was very safe. We only had 150 crores debt. But my investors in those days were all private equity investors, and they, wanted to make money. They were short-term investors. And I had got reduced, like in most cases of our kind of first-generation entrepreneurs. So I did not have a majority equity with me. And so they put pressure, and I realized if I crossed the swords with them, they would, upstage me. And so they put pressure, and then, I had people to choose. And Malia came and wooed me, and Airbus came and said, look, here's Airbus. And we had a lot of constraints of technical manpower. Pilots were not there. Airports were congested. We had a lot of problems. So, and that's right front. But I was twice the size of Malia in my market size. I was twice the size of Malia in my market cap. I was listed. So his valuation was at 2,000 crores. We were listed. Our valuation was $1.2 billion. And so we did the deal. So under pressure from my private equity investors.
So we'll have one more question. Madhukar, can I request you to come and take this from Captain? Yeah, one more question. Yeah. Because Mahesh is already threatening me to...
Because Yediyurappa has come in the gate.
What will you not do?
Obviously, a lot of mistakes were made. Mistakes both by me individually as a insane entrepreneur. Some of those things I think I could have, in hindsight, maybe I could have tempered it. But I think in those days, the way things were, I did what I did. There's a very famous saying, the bumblebee aerodynamically was not designed to fly by the creator, but he did not know. You see, it's the most unaerodynamic thing, that big, thick, black bumblebee. So it flew. So, your optimism, my optimism got me into trouble. My optimism also got me out of trouble. A lot of mistakes were made, but as you know, in entrepreneurship and in life, you may not do the same mistakes that you did last time, because the same kind of circumstances may not present to yourself this time. So you could make different mistakes. It's constant learning. You have to be humble. You have to be, I think, hubris, arrogance, whether it's a government, organization, or an individual, always kills organizations. A hubris of the individual, and also hubris of the people people around you, because when the leader becomes, hubris is that Greek word which says, I know everything. So success, creates opaque vision, and you don't even realize, like jaundice, you don't even realize that you have opaque vision, because at the very height of success, sometimes the seed of decline is shown. So I think we had to guard against it. I think I had to guard against it. And also a lot of learnings in management, because we didn't have manpower. We had 500 pilots from 100 different countries. We had 200 engineers from 100 different countries. So our HR was an impossible HR in terms of getting everybody aligned. Managing the growth, there was a whole lot of lessons there. Obviously, it has to be done differently. But I think the underlying thing is that you have to have the dream, you have to have the optimism, and the passion for it. And you were asking me, what is it that requires? I think first you require is, in anything, you require a market. Whatever India may not have, India has the market. Of course, then you need the right ecosystem. Ecosystem in the sense that, you may not be able to do something in Afghanistan, right? You may not be able to do certain things here, because you need to get a 52% partnership, or you need to get a blessing of the government. Similarly, in India, in some sectors, there is today, it is a license Raj. So aviation, to an extent, is almost 80% is dismantled. That's how I started Air Deccan last time. So the government ecosystem is there. The market is there. So I think the stars have to be aligned now with the right kind of investors. I don't know whether I'll do it, but opportunity exists for everybody to do it.
Thank you, Captain. We're out of time. May I request Madhukar and you gentlemen to come and take this book. And the third one is going to be a raffle draw. So Sunita, over to you. Karvit, to you. Thank you, Captain. I think it's been a wonderful... It's signed, it's autographed. One more. Come. It's signed by him.
The winner is Chandan Gupta.
Thank you.
One, two, three.
Gone.
Gone.
Okay.
One more.
Give it to a lady.
Mr. C.A. Anand Panikar.
Gone.
Not here. Next. C.A. Charles City.
Oh. No, it's a lucky draw, yeah. Thank you so much, Bahrain chapter. Thank you for having us, Captain. Pleasure as always. Thank you. Captain.
Hope you all had a high-fly session. Thank you, Captain G.R. Gopinath and Mr. John Kuruvilla, for reminding us the power of dream. So the mantra is, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. I would now request our chairperson, C.A. Mahesh Kumar Narayan, and Mr. Roshan Arvind from Al Hilal Live to please come up to the stage to present a token of appreciation to our speakers. And also C.A. Sanjeev, Chairman Al Hilal Live, to please come up on stage. Thank you, gentlemen. A small announcement. Please do not forget to collect the T-shirts from the counters outside. Now moving on to our next session. One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, though no machine can do the work of one extraordinary man, said famous American writer and philosopher Albert Hubbard. But for doing this ordinary work, machines need data. In today's world, it should no longer be acceptable to have merely adaptive data. To win customers and market share, an organization must do far more and predict which strategy will unlock the potential its data has to offer. A company must envision how it will compete against today's known players and future disruptors. On that note, can we have the AV please for our next speaker? Mr. Laith Al-Kazrazi, Head of Governance and Assurance, Digital Hub KPMG. Laith's core competence is the identification of data-driven solutions in combination with digitization or efficiency programs. He coordinates data and analytics and digital innovation for corporate governance. Together with his team of data scientists, he was responsible for the design and implementation of algorithms for the calculation of data-driven key performance. He was a speaker at the European Commission in Brussels and similar other events on data and process mining and automation of corporate governance. Mr. Laith Al-Kazrazi. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Laith Al-Kazrazi.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Good, thank you. So first of all, hello everybody. I have to confess that this is my first time in this chapter, and I have to say that I'm really thrilled and enthusiastic about the power and energy of this audience, but also about the knowledge and experience of the great speaker today. So I'm very thankful and I'm very honored to speak today to you about the topic of how to use data-driven thinking to transform business to a new agile and digital world. So, who am I? My name is Laith Al-Kazrazi. I'm a manager at KPMG in Germany, so I arrived like 2 days ago for this speech today. Basically, my background is data science. So from my background, I'm not an economist at KPMG, I'm a computer scientist. And the things that we try to solve is how to use data, to model data, and to transform data into valuable insights to change companies and their processes. Besides, I'm a lecturer at the University in Germany in Karlsruhe for the topic of data science and machine learning, artificial intelligence, how to program algorithms. So the question now arises, why is he telling us that? Well, basically, the speeches and lectures I have, like a monologue, right? I talk and the students listen. So I try, or I would like to invite you today for this session to be as interactive as possible. So what I'd like to do now is, if every one of you can use a smartphone, and then we would use Menti. So please take your smartphones, go to menti.com, and I will show you the password. Oh, it's not showing it. Okay, so if you go to menti.com, please use the code 686845. Okay? Menti, MENTI.com. And maybe you can help me with the connection. Sure, I can do that. So out and in again. And the code is 686845. 686845. So during the dry run it was working, so I'm sorry for that now. Maybe you can stop the time, right? I have an idea, maybe. Okay, it's working, great. Thank you. Okay, so just give me a sign, just give me a like, for example, so we know, okay, how many people are there. We will wait like 10 or 15 seconds, and then I suggest to continue. Okay, we have 40 people here. So you have still the opportunity to participate into the session now. So what I would like to understand in the beginning is, what is your experience with data science and technology? So if you can just give me some words that you think of if you think of technology, and please think of words, not of sentences, right? So what happens now with Menti is, it will collect and cluster the things that you think regarding technology. And as you can say, okay, we have 4 people right now using it. You can put more than one word, of course. And the main part, if we talk about data science, is analysis. Information, insights, and decisions. And this is very good because this is pretty much the topic I want to discuss today with you. So thank you very much for that. You can see it's basically about analysis. So my second question is, so I have prepared some data sets from real customers. So maybe you can share with me, what is your background? Is it like banking, insurance, or something similar? Is it automotive, logistics, production? So really heavy industry creating something? Is it pharma, chemical, or is it energy and similar? I'm sorry for the guys who are not on this list. Okay, so I have a lot of banking and insurance, some automotive. And now the first energy guy enters the room. Okay, this is great because this is pretty much the data set that I've got with this topic. So I will jump to the next one, and the question now is, what experience have you collected so far? So has your company already used RPA? I think this is one of the most, let's say, commodity tools nowadays. Have you used analytics with Excel, or are you using analytics with, let's say, Hadoop or big data tools? And of course, have you used process mining, or do you know process mining? How to use it? Okay, again, we have 50 people, and the most of you have experience with analytics. Can we? Is better? Is this good? Ah, the other mic is on. So now it's better? Okay. Okay, so most of you have experience with analytics using Excel. So today I have prepared some other tools, how to handle more data, how to handle big data, and I will share with you some insights from my experience. Before I share my experience, I don't want you to get boring, right? So I want to understand, okay, what is your personal experience? And based on that, I will adjust my speech to your experience. Because if I will see like everyone knows Excel, I don't have to show you Excel today, right? And if I see that Excel is like the new technology here, of course I will talk about Excel. So please share with me your insights. What you see now, it's the average of the people who submitted their voice. And what you also see in the background is the real votes. So what does it mean? So for example, using process mining, in average, is it 1.5, which means like, I have heard about that maybe. But if you see in the background the area, most of people voted for 0, right? So this is also very interesting because we will vote again in the end of the session, and maybe something changed, something you learned today. Okay, Now I want to invite you that during my speech, please don't hesitate to ask your questions. So if you have any question regarding the speech, just type in your question and I will jump, let's say, every 10 or 15 minutes into this slide during the presentation. So please, if you have questions, don't hesitate. This is an invitation for you. Okay, so I would like to continue. We had this morning a very great speech in the morning where the colleague said that disruption means there will be winners and there will be losers. So I have one company which was a winner but transformed maybe to a loser. So what they said is, we didn't do anything wrong in the business that we did, and I think they are right. Everything they did was correct. Good bookkeeping, good accounting, good marketing, right? So I'm talking about Nokia. So if I was thinking about mobile phones in this time, I was thinking about Nokia. If I asked someone about mobile devices, everyone thought about Nokia. I think everyone in this room had a Nokia maybe, right? So today, if I ask today about mobile devices, you will think about smartphones. You will think about iOS and iPhone. You will think about Android. You will not think about Nokia, right? So, of course, they didn't do something wrong, but somehow they lost. Somehow they lost their big market share from one day to the other. And the question is, why? Correct. So the question is, how did the market change without noticing it? How can we notice in the future if the market changes? And maybe more important, how to react if the market changes. So for today's session, I will focus on the second question, how to react if the market changes. Before that, I will change my mobile device.
Wire is playing missing.
Okay. You will stop the time, right? I'm still negotiating. Right? Yeah. Take this. I come back. Yeah. Whatever you like. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I hope this works better. Do you still hear me good in the background? I think this is better, right? So I'm from Germany, but my origins are from Iraq, so I'm Arabic, and we are used to negotiate, right? So I'm trying to negotiate with this guy to give me more time, because during this exchange of the device, the time is still running, but I lost the negotiation, right? I lost the negotiation. Okay, let's go back to another loser than me. It's Nokia. So the question is, the market changed and nobody noticed at Nokia, and somehow they lost. So the question is how to face in the future if disruption appears. And I will focus on this. So the next half hour, so give me 5 additional minutes. The next half hour, I have 4 concrete ideas that I want to share with you. The first one is, if we talk about data science, if we ask 2 guys what is data science, you get 5 answers, right? So today I will give you a common understanding of data science in the first chapter. It will be like 5 or 10 minutes. Then I will show you how to use data science to transform your business to a so-called superfluid business. So leaving complex, leaving static structures in your company and transform to a superfluid like water company. And then I have maybe a highlight for today. In the middle you can see it, a live demo how to use data science to transform your business using data. This will be based on real data from one of our customers from a recent project. So I'm happy to share that with you. And last but not least, I will share with you 4 best practices out of our experience from 250, 300 projects. So this will be the agenda for today. And again, if any question arises, please use Menti, and then maybe I can handle that. So let's think back to Nokia. Let's think back to every company these days. So basically, companies are facing 2 different challenges nowadays, right? On the one side, of course, keep efficiency, reduce manual effort. And on the other side, meet regulatory, meet compliance issues. So 2 different things, but very complex things. So basically, people are aware of the liability. People have to save money during doing their core business, but at the same time, they have to meet customer experience. So this is basically a huge challenge for everyone. So for us as KPMG, but also for our clients. But also a great chance. A great chance because something new is happening. We are trying to move from human labor, like people doing stuff manually every day, every task, always the same. We have to move them to do something more meaningful, to move them to think strategically, for example, right? And the question is, how can we do that? Does anyone or everybody now have to be a data scientist? What do we have to do? I think no. I think we have to give the people tools and weapons to face these challenges. On the one hand, we have to give them algorithms, right? We have to give them analytics to identify, based on data, new insights. And on the other hand, we have to give them some room to explore the data. And by give them room, I mean automate stuff that they do every day, and they will have room to think and use data to explore new things and keep going the strategy. So what happens is, if you give people this information and these weapons, you move from a human labor to a digital labor. So your people will think strategically using data, they will make decisions based on data, and they will leave the experience and subject-based decision making. And this is concretely this what I want to talk to you today, how to use data techniques to make decision making based on facts. So if we talk about data analytics and data science, people talk about artificial intelligence, people talk about Excel. I want to give you some, let's say, framework, how you can understand it better, right? So the easiest way of analytics is rule-based. Rule-based means if it rains, then I use an umbrella. This is pretty easy. You can use it with Excel. You can use it with any other tools. So if A happens, then use B. The second maturity level is about explorative. So getting data, no hypothesis, just exploring the data, understanding, okay, are there any clusters, for example? So I take the data of my customers and try to understand, are the customers who pay more money than other customers, for example? I explore the data without any hypothesis. And the last maturity level, this is what people call AI. I will call it machine learning because I think it's more, it fits better. Machine learning is basically you use past data and let the machine learn from itself to predict other stuff. So today I will show you one example how we use every of these, let's say, tools together. But before I do that, I want you to understand better I want you to understand better what I mean if I talk about analytics. So this is one of our customers, and this is a completely different use case now, okay? It's not about analytics and AI, but I want to show you with this example. To show you with this example what I mean if I talk about analytics and automation. So hopefully the internet works now. So this company is basically a company that makes grapefruit wine or grapefruit drinks. They have two issues. On the one side, they have to meet customer expectations. Customers want to have the best soft drink as possible, right? You will not drink a grapefruit which is bad. On the other hand, they have to save money on humans who pick the good and bad grapes. So far understandable, right? They have two challenges. What they did in the past was they had like a line with maybe 500 people doing the same thing every day. They take a look on every grape and say, that's a good one, that's a bad one. That's a good one, that's a bad one. The whole day, every day. Humans picking the good and bad grapes. And as you can see, it's plenty of grapes there, right? So the question arises, how can we solve this problem? How can we solve the problem of identifying bad grapes without investing too much on human labor? The problem with human labor is, of course, the costs. But on the other side, imagine you have two guys picking the good and bad grapes. The one guy is very experienced. He will see the good grapes in 1 second. Maybe the younger guy has no experience and he will pick bad grapes and think it will good break, right? So how can we bring some quality? So what they did is they used analytics and automation to scan the grapes, okay? So they explore it first. They explore the grapes using analytics. Using machine learning, they predict which grape is good and which grape is bad. And as you can see, it happens here. So this is 16 times slow motion for all grapes. There is a scanner which scans, take an image of every single grape, and then there is automation. It's rule-based. If the grape is bad, kill it. And you can see what's happening, right? The red ones are killed, bam, finished. And this is basically what we talk about if we talk about data science. Use data, get insights, and don't stop. Use the insights to create value, right? So this is basically what we want to do. We want to transform the idea of this company to our business. Okay? So on the first side, they have to explore, get the data from the grapes, then they use machine learning to predict the good and bad grapes, and then there's a rule, if a grape is bad, kill it. This is how these tools work together. So if I talk about data science, I'm not talking about either this or either this. I'm talking about a toolkit. A toolkit, and depending on the problem, I will use everything or only one thing. This is basically what I'm talking about data science. So as you see, there is a company, there are companies, and the technology is already there that use AI, that use data to change their business. So the question now arises, why is not everyone doing it right now, right? Well, basically interviewing people, interviewing businesses, interviewing companies after the last 5 years, I have my personal conclusion. I think the companies which were great and maybe are still great these days, they grew with the time. And by growing, their structures also grow and get complex, right? And this complexity has the result like this picture. If I talk with their about their IT systems, I get a picture like that. So people say, I have some experience with our Microsoft platform, but with the Oracle thing, please talk to the other guys, right? So the structures change and get very complex within the time. And as a negative impact, the working capital is bad, right? Because they invest in a lot of things they maybe don't need. The efficiency is bad because it needs time to solve problems, right? Because they have to call maybe 20 persons till they solve the problem that they have. And last but not least, intransparency is always a risk for compliance issues, money laundering and other stuff. So the question was, how can we solve this problem? How can we bring some light into this IT systems? And the idea that we had is, okay, we try to find every data point, we try to reconstruct the data flows, streamline them into one algorithm, and the algorithm tells us good grape, bad grape. The algorithm tells us this behavior was good, this behavior was bad, and then you can directly optimize the problem. And this is exactly what I want to show you today. So the idea is, if you have this tool like the grape machine company, you can transform your static, complex business using your own data and using an experienced machine learning algorithm from other companies that learn from other companies to transform your company into a super fluid enterprise, we call, right? So on the first side, you discover the problems that you have, then you have to enhance the problems, and then you monitor, did your actions were good or bad. So basically, this speech is about the first part, about discovery. How can we discover, using data analytics, using artificial intelligence, the bad grapes? And this is basically what I want to focus on now, maybe the next 5 to 10 minutes. I have 3 concrete goals to you. Okay, so about this topic, I have, like I told before, a lecture. It's going about 3 to 4 semesters for bachelor and masters. I have for you 2 slides to explain these 2 semesters. Okay, so basically, there are 3 main points about process mining, about artificial intelligence. The first one is move from subjective, move from experience-based decision-making, move to facts, move to decision-making which is based on data. So increase your objectivity. The second one is change the way of thinking of processes. Change the way of how you want to optimize processes, how you want to audit processes. And the last but not least point is you can identify the needles in the haystack, of course, but the question is which of the needles is relevant to you, right? You will find many of needles. The question is which of the needles is good or okay, and which one is more important. So these concrete ideas we will talk about today. Before that, from the background, how did we develop it and why did we develop it? So from the background, KPMG, all its companies, We go to the companies, make some consultancy for the processes. I'm a computer scientist. I do not do that, right? So I went for my first interview and I asked them, what are you doing? And then they said, we do A, B, C, D. And for me, it was like this picture. It was a dark warehouse. And someone told me, okay, please make some recommendation how to optimize the processes. But I didn't see everything, right? It was too dark. So I thought, okay, you know what? We have no idea about the processes, but you are computer scientists. Maybe you have an idea how to use the data from this warehouse to bring some light into this warehouse. So what we did is we asked, okay, are there any IT-based processes? And of course, there were some for this warehouse, right? So what we did is we asked for the data. We used the data, we trained an algorithm, we developed a model that reads the data, understands the flow of the data, and as a result, we have footprints. So as maybe a fox walks through a desert, we can see his footprints. We want to do the same based on data. What did the company do with the data? And what happens as a result is the light goes on. And now if you think back, in the past, I will ask about this box maybe because I see it, right? Now I can ask other questions. I can see more than this box. In the background, there's something happening. I can ask more questions. How long does it take from A to B? Is the combination of A, B, C correct or not, right? So what I can do now with this slide is I can ask completely different question. I will not ask, what are you doing? I will ask, why are you doing it? And how can we improve it? So basically, we want to transform digital footprints into light, transparency, and only based on this transparency, I will talk to people. Because now I know the facts based on data, and now I can ask them, why did you do it? I will not ask them, what did you do? I will ask, why did you do it? Okay, so I promised just a bit theory. This is one slide theory, and that's all about it. So what we need is a timestamp. We need to know, when did it happen? The question is, what did happen at this time? So for example, step 1, step 2. And we have to understand to which case does it belong, case 1 or case 2. And what we want to do is we collect all of this data, or we create this data, to create the real data flows and process flows. So one example, on the left side you see the timestamp. In the middle you can see the activity that was performed. And on the right side you will see the case ID, to which ID does it belong, this activity. What I do, so what by me I mean the algorithm, what the algorithm is doing it, he finds this pattern, and as a result, on the right side you can see the process flow, right? So create order on 12th February, release order, receive goods, you can see it on the right side. Then I will take a look on more data, and more data, and more data. And what I will do is, I will expand this picture on the right side for you to understand what is happening in this company. So regarding an old economy consulting practice, I would talk with the company about this process, and I would try to optimize this process. Now, if I use the data, I want to optimize the red ones. The blue one is okay, but the red one is bad, right? So this is what we want to explore, using the data and explore the bad grapes, the red ones. So as I said before, I have one data set with real data from a car insurance company in Germany. It's one of the biggest, and I'm glad to share the insights from this project. So this is a car insurance company, right? Again, they have the problem of meeting regulatory issues, investing in compliance, but on the same side, saving money and increase efficiency. How can we do that? Again, when we talk to the people, what is your process during this insurance stuff that you do? They said, you know what? You don't have to start. We are great. Okay? Our processes are very lean and optimized and highly automated. And then we asked, okay, what are you doing? And they draw a picture like that. And this picture or similar picture is for every company that I have interviewed. What is your process? They always show me like that. We have 1, 2, 3 processes to how to proceed with claims, car insurance claims, right? I said, okay, fair enough. So let's now talk to the data. Instead of talking to people, I will talk to the data. So what I do is, we collected the data from them, used our algorithms to recreate the real data flow based on the data, and now we talk to the data. So what you see now is the real process flow, how they are using the processes, how they're executing in their business, okay? So what you see is, it's basically this what they told us. They create a claim file, they are verifying the insurance coverage, they approve it, they scan the invoice. After 1 day, they allocate the invoice, and then they book the invoice. And then the process ends. So this company told me, see, I told you, our process is great, everything is green, straightforward. And I said, okay, fair enough. But if we take a look on this data, you told me about 2 processes, right? If I take a look on the data, I can see 64 different processes. I can see 64 different behaviors, how you executed your processes. Told me about 2. So either you don't know what your process is, or everyone is doing what he wants to do in your company. And the question now is, do you want that? So do you want still to optimize the things that you think happen in your company, or do you want to optimize the things that really happen in your company, right? So the question is, what is happening here? What are the 64 different behaviors using the data? Because as you can see, we are looking on the first most frequent variant, which is the should-be process, right? And the should-be process covers only 18% of every case. So it means there is something else happening in this company. So again, we will use the data to understand what is happening. So what I will do now is, let's take a look on the other 36 variants. And this is reality. This is real data of a car insurance company in Germany. So again, this is their process, how they claim, or how they proceed claims. Right? The question arises, what is that? It's like spaghetti, right? Again, think back when I asked them, what is your process? They showed me this process. Straightforward, very easy, right? This is real data. What is happening here? So I told them, okay, don't worry. For every project I did, this spaghetti picture always arises. Because as I said before, companies grow with the time, the processes, organization get complex, and the result is this. But now, if you want to face disruption, you have to cut it. And the question is, where to cut it, right? So as you can see, I have different colors. This is the point where the machine tells me, based on his experience from other projects, what are the good and what are the bad grapes. The good ones are green, the bad ones are red. And as you can see, I have plenty of red dots, right? Plenty of red dots. What I also can see is, if you imagine this spaghetti picture as Google Maps, right? You zoom out, you can see the highways, you zoom in, you can see the small streets. Again, if I zoom out, you will see the highways, right? This one is a highway, a dark line. Another highway, here's a highway, here's a highway. Plenty of highways, but also small streets. The problem with highway is, I got this experience in Bahrain walking out of my hotel, there's traffic jam, right? It's the same with here. So I want to understand, where are bottlenecks, where is traffic jam? And you can see, there is one specific point with many ingoing highways. This one here, right? So there's a high risk for this company for having, let's say, traffic jam, which means bottlenecks. So they are losing time here. And this is bad customer experience, because the customer thinks what the proposal told them, in 10 days we will handle your claim. So I'm asking my algorithm, okay, the advertisement says in 10 days everything is finished. The reality is, 30 days. 3 times longer than they proposed in their advertisement. And again, we will not stop here, right? We would turn these insights now from the data to create value. So the question is, where do I have to optimize my process now? Because this spaghetti picture, I can never handle it, right? So what I want to do now is, I want to understand better where are the problems. So first thing I do is I will ask my algorithm, okay, screen all the data and tell me at which points does it make sense to optimize, and then please give me a priority list. Okay, if you have found 100 problems, give me only the top 5 problems, so I can grow step by step. Okay? So what he's doing for every problem, step by step, he's trying to find the problems. For example, where can time wasting be reduced? So what he's doing, he says, okay, based on my experience, so experience of the data, 5 days can be reduced. So 5 days for like proceeding the claims, from 70 days in average to 68 days in average, you can save this money based on your data. And we will do this with every red dot that you have seen. With every red dot, we will ask the algorithm, where is the most valuable potential? And then we have a top 10 list, and then we go step by step to optimize it. So the question arises, how to optimize? And again, I will not talk to people with that. I will first ask my algorithm. So again, I will ask my algorithm, what do you recommend me based on the data experience on the machine learning algorithm? Where should I start? So with this company, they have different seats in America, Miami, New York City, San Francisco. So should I travel to every of these seats and ask them what to optimize, or what should I do? The algorithm says, no, you don't have to. Just pick the problem you want to solve. For example, the update claim information, which is time wasting. I click on it, and then I say, okay, please perform a root cause analysis. And as you can see, he automatically finds the root causes based on machine learning. He will say there's a high probability that if you start with New York City, you will solve many of the problems you have. Don't talk with San Francisco, don't talk with Berlin or Hamburg, talk with the guys from New York City. Talk with them about the problem, how they handle phone calls and letters, right? Because they assumed they have to solve the problem of emails. But now they see, wait, we have to solve the problem of letters. So what we did in the last 5 minutes, we tried to use the data of the company. We matched the data of the company with the trained machine learning algorithm to get insights. And this is the first best practice. So companies say, wow, nice visualization tool. And we say, no, it's not visualization. It's more about how to transform this information that you get from the tool into real action. This is really the topic that we want to discuss. We want to kill these complex processes. We want to have lean, flexible processes. So again, it's the same or similar what the grapefruit company is doing, right? Pick or explore the data, pick the bad grapes, and then kill the bad grapes. The same is here. Find, explore the time-wasting activities, and kill them. Okay? So 3 concrete ideas. The first one from today was increase your objectivity in optimizing processes and optimizing companies. Start with objectivity. This is a map of Düsseldorf. This is a city in Germany. I'm often there because I have a project, and what I always do is, this is my hotel, and I have my office here. What I always do is, I ask myself, I know this way, so I walk this way today, okay? So very experience-based decision that I took. If I would ask Google Maps, so based on facts, I will see that my traditional way is not the best way. There's another better way maybe, okay? So what I want to tell you is the idea of leaving hypotheses and start exploring data, and then create hypotheses. Second point, change the way of auditing, of consulting, or of optimizing processes. Because if you talk to people, they will tell you what they think really happens. They will talk about the design of the process. Like this picture, they will say, see, our process is easy, straightforward. And there is one control, someone is controlling everything is okay. Again, if we take a look on this way, we will see, someone is bypassing this process. So reality is often deviating from the design. So stop talking to people, start talking to data, and then talk to people about the why is this happening. And last but not least, this is a picture of a house in the Netherlands. Okay, it is taken in the winter. So as you can see, there is snow on the rooftop, right? But there's one house which is very interesting because there is no snow on it. So maybe if you ask the people, they will tell us, they are heating too much, right? Well, if they are heating too much, then the question arises, what about the other houses? They have to melt also, right? So I'm not a physics, but I think they have to melt a bit, at least. So the question arises, okay, every house is white except of this one. So let's take a deeper look into it, and we will see, oh, something is happening in this house. Someone likes plants, obviously, right? So drugs, basically, in Netherlands. So what we want to do is, we want to use the data to find the bad grapes and also the unexpected ones. So we're not only asking for the bad that we know it's bad, we ask for everything, we explore it. Yeah? Okay, so last but not least, my time is over, but maybe 5 minutes. I think this is a yes. I want to give you some best practices. Okay, 5 minutes. First of all, increase objectivity. I told about that. Revolution the audit of processes and find the needle in the haystack. So do it not because it's funny or cool. Do it with a specific goal. So you have to have a goal. First goal could be we want to transform our business. We want to get like the new Tinder of the world, right? We want to get the new Uber. So change the way of how to think and start to organize the company using data, standardization, harmonization, and automation. But more important is where to start and what to remind. So four things that I learned personally from the last, let's say, 5 years doing data science with diverse companies, like from Daimler and BMW to small ones, bakeries, and so on. It's every time the same issue, and I want to share 4 issues with you today. The first issue is, if you want to start this journey of superfluid enterprise, start small and then grow big. Don't say we want to be superfluid in one day, we want to buy tools and so on. Have a strategy how to do it. Second thing is, talk about the business potential, not about the cool data and the cool algorithms. Talk about what is the output of the algorithms. And the third thing is, this is a business exercise. So don't say, okay, this is nice, but we have to hire IT guys for that. No, this is about accountants. They have to drive this topic. And last but not least, don't forget, we're talking about data, so don't forget data privacy. Okay? So concretely, first point, start small, big. From the best practice, I can tell you, if you always think, how does the customer think? What does the customer want? This is the best way to start. So what is the most customer-centric process? And start with this process. So in Germany, it's basically the order-to-cash process, like how to sell things. Start with this one. But don't forget, there are 2 very important parameters. The first one is data there? And is the quality data good? And the second one is, what is really the business value of this process? This is why I told you to start with order-to-cash or with customer experience processes, because this has the most value. Then we take a look on other things, for example, purchase-to-pay, production. Without production, you can't sell anything, right? Without purchase-to-pay, you can't product something. So these are the next logical processes that you would optimize. And then you can talk about HR, about IT, about other processes. So this is one generic best practice that I want to share with you. Start with one of them, not with all of them. The next one is, people often say, wow, nice technology, computer scientists, we have to have more computer scientists, we have to have more data scientists. No, I think you have to improve your current accountants. Give them tools, educate them, because they can really create the value, not the computer scientist. The computer scientist can always, let's say, play with the data, right? But he's never able to interpret the pie chart, the flow chart, whatever. You need the accountants, you need the business guys. So please highlight always the action and the value. Do not talk too much about the data and we can't do it. Just do it. Take the data that you have. You have some data. At least your smartphones are creating data, right? So use the data that you have and just think, which business value can you create with that? And don't forget, think from business, right? Often people say, yeah, nice, talk to my IT guy. Basically, I will say, no, this has to be driven by the management board because it's a strategic alignment. A superfluid enterprise is something strategically made, not the IT guys. They are just a provider for that, the cables and some stuff, so not bad, mate. And also we need some core team, someone who says, our vision is to transform this company. And these are your process heroes. So invest into these guys, data scientists, onto the accountants who will drive the topic from the business value, and don't forget about the IT admin. And also, don't forget about the guys who check your processes, IT internal audit, right? But also of the process owner, and the most important one, the privacy officer. Because we talk about data, so please address privacy issues. Please think of, let's say, don't waste data too much. Don't say we need every data, just use the data that you really use. So don't forget the handling of personal data. You don't need the name of the guy who did something wrong. You just have to educate him, right? So please anonymize his name and then explore the data. So there are basically 4 best practices. Start small, grow big, demonstrate the value, not the IT, right? Think of this exercise as a business exercise, not an IT exercise, and don't forget, data is always about data privacy. So again, I think if Nokia was able to use their data, their market data, to understand the business better, maybe they were not the losers anymore. Maybe they would be the iPhones, the Androids, the winner of the disruption. So idea is, cut the complex processes, discover the bad ones, discover the bad grapes, optimize it, enhance it, and then check always, okay, the action that we did, was it good or was it bad? And this is the way of how you can get this journey of becoming a super fluid enterprise. Okay, so last 45 minutes, 40 minutes maybe, I showed you some fundamentals of data science, what is meant by data science. We said it's a toolkit, not a solution. It's about transforming the way of thinking, the mindset, from static thinking to a super fluid like water thinking. And we saw one example of how to use data science in practice as an accountant, right, to get insights from data. And last but not least, I shared 4 best practices, how to start, where to start, and what to do. Okay, so maybe I have 60 other seconds. If you, again, please take your smartphones out. And then you will have this interface. So just for understanding, do you now understand the concept of analytics using Excel better than before the session or not? And again, do you understand the idea of data mining and big data and machine learning, for example, better or not? Okay, so it's still 0, so maybe you go to menti.com, right? Excuse me? Something went wrong? Okay, what about that? Okay, what about now? Okay, well, last time, and then it's fair enough. Okay, too bad. Email us, funny. Excuse me? The email ID? I will show it 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Oh, maybe there's a chance now. Could not reach the server. Okay, fair enough. So I'm here today and tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. I'm sorry for that. I thought we can use Menti to make it interactive now. If not, this is my name, my email address, or LinkedIn, or whatever you want to use to contact me. And again, I will be here today and tomorrow. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, or any ideas maybe. And then would I say happy mining, which means just start the data that you have, and good luck with your journey of superfluid enterprise. Thank you.
Hope you all had an insightful and impactful session.
Not working, right?
Thank you, Mr. Lith. Hope you all had an insightful and impactful session on data science. I would now request our chairperson, C. Mahesh Kumar Narayan, and Mr. Krishnan, CFO of BCICAI Kanu, to please come up on stage to present a token of our appreciation to Mr. Lith. Now we will have a short break. Please enjoy hot coffee and tea and reassemble back exactly at 4 p.m. Also, do not forget to wear the t-shirts which can be collected from the counter which are set up outside.